Hey, it's Vas here from Aussie RC Playground and welcome to another episode of RC Pit Stop. Today we are going to be working on my Kraton V4. We're going to be changing out just one part, so this should be a fairly quick video. The part in question is going to be this one, which is the steering Ackerman. This one came to me from GKA and it is beautifully finished, as are all of GKA parts. Very, very nicely done. Now, of course, this is not the first time I'm using GKA. I have used them many times in the past. I've done several videos on some of the upgrade parts available. We've got the hinge pin braces right here on the rear of the car. Of course, you can get them for the front as well. I haven't got mine on the front as yet, but you can get them for the rear, as you can see there. The aluminium chassis braces, so front and rear. These are actually an older design. He's actually updated these since I've received these particular ones. I think they've been recessed out in the middle to make them a little bit lighter as well. These were originally on my Kraton V2. But I recently sold that car, and of course I stripped it of all its parts and tossed it all in here. We've also got the aluminium servo mount in here as well to minimize flex. This of course gives you maximum steering accuracy. Now the steering Ackerman, I think it's called, which goes in here. This is just a stamped alloy little plate, and you probably won't see it too well, but there it is there. And what tends to happen with these is over time, as you take impacts on the front wheels and so forth, they tend to weaken a little bit. The alloy starts to fatigue and eventually might even start to bend. It starts to flex. This, of course, minimizes steering accuracy, and in some cases you may even break it. So it's always good, to have options like this available where you can just upgrade and get something that's a little bit stronger. It's going to last you a lot longer. And of course, depending on the type of bashing and abuse that you put these cars through, you may even want to do it straight out of the gate, just to save yourself the hassle of having something break when you're out there having fun with your friends. So without further ado, let's find out what's the quickest and easiest way to change this part out. I think the best way to tackle this is to take out the A-arms, and that'll give me access to the screws. So if I take out these upper A-arms here and do one at a time, I might be able to get to this fairly quickly. So let's give this a go. I've never done it before. Let's try it, and I'll show you the progress as we go along. Okay, so this is where I'm up to so far. I've removed the upper hinge pin here that holds this upper arm. Once you remove that and it's bolted onto the front of the shock tower, take this guy out of the way. Hold on to the little spaces that are on either side of the A-arm as well, because we'll need them back. You can move this out of the way and then you have access here. That way it saves you from having to remove anything up the top. So pop this guy aside and you get to your steering Ackerman. So there it is there, that's the original one. Couple of screws to remove. One is a little tiny one that goes through to this link here. Now there was quite a fair bit of Loctite in here, and I actually stripped out one of these screws. A good way to get this screw out of here without stripping the head off it is to apply some heat. We're in winter at the moment, so that Loctite would have been rock hard. If you're in a more warmer climate, it may be a little bit easier to remove, but I would still recommend applying a little bit of heat just to loosen that Loctite up, and then that way saves you stripping out screws. And then you're ready to put on your new Ackerman. So you can see that there's a couple of washers here that kind of slot into place. That's them there. So they slide in there like so. This faces up, and with this curved bit facing forward. Essentially that's how this fits in here. I kind of had a little bit of a play to see how it fitted. So it goes in there like so. Then you've got this great big screw that you'll need to remove from the original one as well. That goes through there like so. And then there's a washer that goes underneath that. So that goes in there like so. And then you can pop that in to this plastic piece here, which has a little locking nut underneath, and then that just locks onto the nut. Now you don't want to over tighten this, it needs to move. So make sure when you're putting it on that you can still move the Ackerman quite freely, because if you over tighten this, you're going to jam up the steering, you're going to cook your servo in no time at all. So just be mindful of that. Don't over tighten this screw right here, and that goes the same for the other side. So once you've done one side, just repeat on the other one, and we should be pretty much done. Now, if you're unsure if you've got some screws that are a bit too tight or anything like that, you're not sure if your steering is jamming up, a good way to check this, and you only need to remove one screw, is to undo the screw on the servo horn here. You take this out and just make sure that your steering's free. So you should be able to quite easily kind of jiggle it side to side, and you know that it's free, you know that your servo is not going to be under stress at all. Now, when I undid that screw and took the servo horn out, I made sure that my steering was straight. So that means that now, once I line this up, I should be able to pop the servo horn back on here very, very easily. There it is there. And then I can just grab my Allen key here and tighten that on like so, and just crank on it just a little bit. Make sure it's nice and tight, it's not going to come off. And that is it. That is a very quick and easy job to do. And of course, this same thing applies if you're just replacing this with the stock Ackerman as well. If you're just getting another one of these because the original one buckled or whatever the case may be, then you can use this exact video to kind of do the same thing. You don't have to dismantle half the car, thank goodness. You just have to take the upper hinge pins off the upper arms, and then you have access to all the bits that you need to do to change that over. So very simple, very easy job. I'm pretty sure anybody can do this. And of course, a little tip here to make sure that your steering is nice and free and you're not going to be putting your servo under stress. That is pretty much it for this video. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to give it a big dirty thumbs up. Check out the video description. I'll have links in there to the car and to my social media pages and so forth. Thank you again, and I'll speak to you all next time.